That's math, right?
Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We are always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual, personnel, and confidential matters. We hope our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
Notice of open public meeting as required under the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-6. Adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the municipal clerk, Princeton Packet, and the Times on January 9th, 2025, and distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 0168, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this in-person meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A 38-8.1. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions. In the event that NJSA 18A 38-8.1 is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
All right, next up is...
Would you like to call the roll?
Roll call.
Yes, thank you.
Beth Bayron?
Here.
Adam Bierman?
Here.
Maura Franceschi?
Here.
Eleanor Hubbard?
Here.
Catherine Lara?
Here.
Ari Mizell?
Here.
Christopher Santarpio?
Here.
Erica Snyder?
Here.
Susan Cantor?
Here.
Daphne Kinder?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. All right, can I get a motion for the adoption of the minutes for February 24th, 2026? Chris, Ari, second.
Beth Bayron? Adam Bierman? Maura Franceschi? I have Beth abstain. I have
Oh,
Adam Bierman.
yes.
Okay. Maura Franceschi?
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard?
Yes.
Catherine Lara?
Yes.
Ari Mizell?
Yes.
Christopher Santarpio?
Yes.
Erica Snyder?
Yes.
Susan Cantor?
Yes.
Daphne Kendall?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you, Mr. Harris. So moving on, the board president's report. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. It looks like all but 3 people in our community are out having fun. So for some, this is fun. Thank you for joining us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. LaSousa, who has a very meaty report tonight.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Kendall. Before I get to my media report, we have the official update of our calendars for this agenda, turning the Friday before Memorial Day weekend into an early dismissal day of school for students, and then a regular day of school on the Tuesday, the 26th. And then tonight is the night we have to approve our preliminary budget, just for the benefit of our robust audience. The governor postponed her budget address by 2 weeks because it's her first one. This hasn't happened, I don't think, since the middle of the pandemic. And as a result of that, we received our state aid figures just on Thursday in the middle of the day. So we've been scampering around trying to just finalize the preliminary budget, which we must adopt at this meeting and submit to the county, and then have the county review it for final approval by the board in April. So I will give an overview of the preliminary budget and take any questions, and we'll go from there.
Can I just say that, so you've had 5 days to put this together. So before you even begin, thank you, Mr. Harris, Ms. Dior, and Dr. LaSousa for all your work on this.
Thank you and the rest of the board for all of your work, because you all made yourselves available yesterday in 2 different committee meetings to make sure that we were moving in the right direction.
But I'm thinking you worked over the weekends. So, for anyone who thinks teaching's a 9-to-5 job, I want them to know that's not the case.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And happy St. Patrick's Day as well to everyone. As I just said, we've been working on this before Thursday, but we've tried to tighten it up. And because it's been on a short notice, if we need to tighten anything up further or clarify anything, we can, of course, do that at the next meeting. So just quick overview, a little bit of context to start, then a look at where we are with our current budget, the key components of the budget that we are proposing for adoption tonight, and then we'll end with just some next steps. And in composing the budget, the board and the administration have tried to ensure that we are not altering or dismantling or reducing any of the current programs that our students enjoy. We're trying to make improvements wherever we can. And of course, we're trying to find ways to be more efficient moving forward from a financial standpoint. And if anyone here reads NJ.com or New Jersey Spotlight News, you know that there are districts all over the state right now that are experiencing financial difficulties. Some of them are very well publicized, and there may be a host of issues at hand, but many, many, many others throughout the state are running into problems this year in particular. So I'm going to start by kind of talking a little bit about why that is from my point of view. So the first thing that we all have to understand is many districts like ours, a suburban district, rely heavily on the local tax levy. In fact, 80+% of our budget is made up from the local tax levy. And we can't talk about the local tax levy without talking about the tax levy cap. And for the past 15 years or so, we operate within a very, very tight 2% levy cap. When this cap went into effect, it took the place of something called S1701, which was a soft cap. And that last bullet refers to this. So back in the day, pre-financial crisis, pre-Governor Christie, school districts were able to apply for about a dozen different waivers to the 4% cap. And it was on the onus was on the school district to apply and make the case to the county that they could exceed the 4% because of a whole host of reasons. And in 2011, when this took effect, the current law took effect, that ended, and school districts no longer have bear the responsibility of trying to exceed the cap. The Department of Education tells us if we can exceed the cap of 2% and by how much. And there's no negotiation over that. There's no pleading with the state. It's a hard cap. And so if you think about the period beginning with the implementation of this law, which was in 2011, this is just the CPI based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For the first 10 years, roughly, the CPI, the rate of inflation, was about or below 2%. So the law worked because most of our expenses as school districts were not rising that much more than 2%. The exceptions, of course, would be salaries and collective bargaining agreements, and most districts really brought down settlements. So I'm old enough to remember settlements of 4.5% back when inflation was much higher in the early 2000s. But during this period of time, 2010 to 2020, roughly, settlements came down, and and as I'll speak to in a second, other than salaries, the other big driver of many budgets is health benefits. Health benefits was one of the carve-outs to the cap. So if districts had trouble staying at the 2% mark, they were told by the DOE that they could exceed the cap by a certain amount, usually in most years, with respect to their health insurance increases. As we all know, 2010 to 2020 was a fine run for this law, but then we ran into the pandemic. And from my perspective, there are three reasons why districts are now hitting a brick wall, and that brick wall was postponed a bit through the pandemic, through the last 5 years. So the first reason on the right-hand corner there is that we all got a lot of federal funding during the pandemic, and the federal funding helped paper over some of the shortcomings we were all experiencing as a result of inflation going through the roof. Excuse me. The second reason is that In 2021, excuse me, Governor Murphy and the legislature enacted a change to how school districts are permitted to build their budgets. And at the current time and prior to 2021, school districts essentially must carry a 2% emergency account balance, if you will. Think of it as like cash on hand. 2% of the operating budget is in an emergency reserve. And that's the old, rainy day fund. If the roof blows off, if there's a tornado that hits, districts have to be able to turn somewhere for some special funding that they might not otherwise have access to. And districts can't even tap into that 2% without getting county approval. For the 2 years in the pandemic, under S 2691, districts were permitted to double that emergency reserve account from 2% to 4%. And then when the law expired, the difference between 4% and 2% was returned to fund balance. So it enabled districts to build a bigger cushion, double the cushion, if you will, than they were accustomed to building. And that delta ended up then sticking around, if you will, beyond 2022 to help districts if they ran into financial difficulties. And then the final number there, I'm going to speak to in a few slides, but that's S2. S2 is the law that Governor Murphy signed into effect that forced the state, required the DOE to run the formula and to return funding based on CIFRA, which is the current school funding formula. If you remember, if you were around when Governor Christie was in office, Governor Christie abandoned CIFRA because of the financial crisis. And what happened was there was no funding tied to any formula that was constitutionally approved until S2 was signed back into law. Most districts in the state, roughly 2/3, ended up gaining state aid as a result of S2. So this is just Princeton Public Schools over the course of S2. You can see that we were only receiving about a little over $2 million in direct state aid. This is categorical aid, and I'll explain what that is in a little bit. But from 2018, right up until 2 years ago, right up until last year, we kept on getting boosts in state aid. So our state aid went up almost 170%. That helped deal with that inflation spike because the state was stepping in to help make up the difference, maybe not all the difference, but some of the difference between what the tax levy could generate on a 2% basis and what the expenses were. So we had a really nice climb. Last year, we lost 3% of our state aid, direct state aid. I'll explain why that is. And then this year, we've gained about 3.5%. So over a 2-year period, if you think about it, and we'll get to this, our state aid is only up 0.5%. And of course, with our tax levy being locked in at 2%, if expenses are going up more than that, we're in trouble. So if you take a look at our current budget, this is the whole kit and caboodle of the current budget. It includes the state aid. It includes federal funding that we get. It includes preschool expansion. Back in 2017, 18, 15, whatever, we didn't have preschool available to all students. We've ramped that up, and the folks who did that deserve a lot of credit. So just looking at our revenues, what constitutes our operating budget, those are the big 5 or so main funding sources for us. And then, of course, in terms of the expenses, that budget supports everything that you know and are familiar with in the district. So every curricular program, every athletic team, every special education program, every bus route, every instructional assistant, all of it comes from that amount up there on the top. So I just want to break down kind of those sources a little bit so that we can walk through them and understand, where we're strained. So the largest source of our budget is the current tax levy. We get to increase it by 2%, as I just said. And then there are 4 adjustments that the DOE tells us whether or not we get to take advantage of or whether we can exercise in the course of any given year. So the first waiver, if you will, the first mechanism to exceed the cap is called banked cap. And all that means is that if the district didn't go up to its maximum taxing ability in any of the 3 prior years, whatever the amount is that it left on the table, it can then exercise in the current year. So currently right now, sadly for us, we have $13,600 sitting on the table that we can fold into the current tax levy to exceed the 2% cap. The other 3 items are enrollment growth. And again, that's determined by the DOE based on our upload of student enrollment in October. State-driven pension liabilities. So if the state determines we have to contribute more to employee pensions, we get to roll that off into the tax levy. And then the bottom one, which is by far the most common, it's the one that is getting the most attention right now in the state in every single school district, is health insurance benefit premium increases. We are permitted to roll however much our increase is into the tax levy up to a maximum of the amount that the state plan, run plan is going up. This year, the state plan, I'll get to this in a second, is going up 31%. Our plans are going up about half that. So we are entitled, if the board wants to, we are entitled to move that into the tax levy. So looking at health insurance, the one that is state run that about something like 1/3 of New Jersey school districts are part of is called the New Jersey School Employee Health Benefits Program. The total increase was just shy of 32%. This just happened on January 1st. The prescription increase alone was almost 59%, as you can see. We are privately insured. We've had a better experience rating than the New Jersey School Employee Health Benefits Program. So our premium increase is forecast at 15%. And just to give you numbers there at the bottom, the NJEHP refers to a plan that was designed through legislation called Chapter 44. Every school district in New Jersey is required to offer the NJEHP. It's a standard plan. So the state health benefits program offers that plan. Every district offers that plan. You can see the difference right now between the state health benefits plan version of NJEHP and the Princeton version. We're about $6,000 below the state health plan. That includes our 15% increase right there in blue. And the richest plan in the school employee health benefits program is right there, that bullet at the bottom, called Direct 10. Used to be very common in most districts. Currently, right now, a family plan, those are all family plan premiums, by the way. Family plan Direct 10 is $74,600. So school districts that are in the state plan, when they hire someone and they offer them family health insurance, family plan for health insurance, it's costing $75,000. And employees pay a portion of that, but obviously school districts are on the hook for the majority of it. Our health insurance budgeted amount for this current year, you can see up there, is $15.5 million. And we're forecasting it to be just shy of $18 million for next year. So if we roll the health benefits increase on a dollar basis into the tax levy with the banked cap, then we get to a maximum tax levy of $94,444,099. So that is the maximum amount our tax levy could go up if the board were to authorize it. It represents about a 4.33% increase in the tax levy. Our next source of funding, largest source of funding, is state aid. So I want to take a few minutes, bear with me. This is going to be the boring, tedious part of the board meeting. But SIFRA is what the current funding formula is called. That stands for School Funding Reform Act. It was established under John Corzine. It passed constitutional muster. Everyone complains about modernizing the formula. Nobody has been able to accomplish it because it's a very high bar to pass to get to constitutional legitimacy. So every governor is talking about, and I was watching the news last night, everyone talks about modernizing the formula. It still has not been done, so we're still running essentially on SIFRA. And the most important thing that I could sort of underscore is that second bullet, that SIFRA was built before the 2% levy cap, and it never contemplated the 2% levy cap. It's not meant to work with a tax levy cap. So we're living in two worlds right now that are contradictory. There's SIFRA that is intended to let school districts fund as much of their school budgets as they want. And then there's a 2% levy cap that has the exact opposite effect. So if we go into CIFRA, there are three main parts to CIFRA. First is adequacy, second is local fair share, and the third is equalization. So adequacy is what the state tells us we need to spend to adequately meet the minimum requirements and standards that we have to deliver to our students. It's what the state tells us is an adequate education. And adequacy is determined, if we go down sort of to the bottom half of the screen there, by several metrics. The first is total student enrollment. So a district with 25,000 students is going to probably have a bigger adequacy budget than a district with 2,000 students. Grade level composition, and these are weights. So an elementary student is weighted as 1.0, a middle school student a little bit more, and a high school student a little bit more, meaning the state is telling us it costs more to educate a high school student than it does a middle school student or an elementary student. And then the state applies weights to the types of students. And the first one is students who receive either free or reduced lunch. And that 0.47 or 0.57 is based on the level of concentration of poverty in a district. So the greater the concentration of poverty, the more likely you have a 0.57 weight for every student, meaning that 0.57 is added on top of the 1.0, 1.04, 1.15.
So I don't want to
Yep.
jump in.
Yep.
But, and you might get this and you can tell me to wait, but are we a 0.47 or a 0.57?
We are a 0.47, I believe.
Okay. And our concentration is about 15%?
Yes, about 16%. That's coming up,
Oh,
actually.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all good.
I'll stop. Okay.
All good. Then the DOE also, the formula also says it costs more to educate a student whose English is not their first language. And of course, it costs more to educate a special education student, but that's a different, that's not really a weight. That's a calculation outside of the weighting of adequacy. So if you look at our demographics, here's your answer there, Daphne. Over the past 20 years, this is based on the enrollment reports that are available on the Department of Education's website. You can see what's happened. And of the two weights there in the prior slide, economically disadvantaged and English language learners, those are the two with the data labels. So that orangish one is the low income students, free or reduced lunch, and the teal color is the students who speak English as a second language. Yep. Yes. They changed the qualifying thresholds last year or the year before. I forget what they are now. So there's been a slight change in the past year or two, but that was to enable more students to qualify given the high cost of living in New Jersey. And I forget the income thresholds right now. But we were already, prior to that change, the trend line was fully in effect. Our low income population has doubled within the district on a percentage basis. And our LEP population, you can see, has gone up about 50% or so. Limited English proficient. Those are the terms the state uses right there. If we tease it out by school, you can see that all of our schools have had an increase in percentage of low-income students since 2005-06, except CP. And all of our schools have had a significant or an increase overall since 2005-06 in MLL enrollment, except CP. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the federal, that comes from the federal government, I'm pretty sure. The business office might know better than I do, but I don't know. So families have to complete forms if they, and they have to show what their income is on a week. I think it's weekly. I don't think it's a monthly basis. I'm pretty sure it's weekly, but we can try to dig up those details. So if you put all that in the sausage grinder or whatever you call it, the Department of Education tells us, or told us last week on Thursday, our adequacy budget is $77 million. That is the state's definition of what we should be spending in Princeton to meet the minimum requirements of the Department of Education. Okay, so that's step one. Step one is the state just told us it costs $77 million to get to the minimum requirements. And of course, we're not satisfied with the minimum requirements. The next step is that the state tells us how much we can afford. So they tell us how much we can afford by something called local fair share. And there are two parts to local fair share: property value and income. So property value is based on the equalized valuation tables that the state puts out every year. And that's designed to ensure that that municipalities that don't perform assessments or reassessments, and a house worth 1.2 million is really, on the tax bill it says it's only worth $240,000. They equalize everything. They have a formula and a method so that it's apples to apples across communities. So they determine the amount of value of property in every community. You can see Princeton is sitting there at $11.5 billion of property value. And then they look at income tax returns. Those are state income tax returns. The most recent year available that was used this year in our school aid was 2023. And it was interesting to me that there's been a dip of income overall, a slight dip from 22 to 23. But you can see that the state determines that there were approximately $3.5 billion of income earned by Princeton residents in 2023. So they take that and they tell us how much could Princeton really afford to pay. So Princeton can afford a budget of $176 million. So then the last step is equalization. And equalization is supposed to cover the gap, if there is a gap, between adequacy and local fair share. So in about half the districts in New Jersey, depending on the year, about half the districts need equalization funding, equalization aid, to get to the point of adequacy, meaning their local fair share is below adequacy. And the state prioritizes their funding, or is supposed to, so that they can get up to the minimum standards needed to meet the educational needs of their students. Princeton does not qualify, never has qualified for equalization aid because Princeton's local fair share is so much higher than its adequacy calculation. So we get zero equalization aid, along with the other half of the districts in New Jersey that don't get it. But beyond equalization aid, there's something called categorical aid. And categorical aid is something that flows to all districts because the state has determined, and CIFRA has recognized, that the state has some obligation to provide some level of funding to all districts. And there are three main categories for categorical aid. Sometimes those categories can change, like during park, they had a special category of $40 per kid, if I remember right, for park implementation. But the main categories are security, transportation, and special ed. And what's interesting, if you remember, last year, our overall state aid went down 3%. The reason it went down was because of special education. And CIFRA, the way it calculates, and this is in law, codified in law, the way it calculates special education is that it applies an assumption that for every single school district has the same rate or same percentage of students who receive special education services. And that percentage is 15.9%. That's when we were looking at the funding over time, all of those fat years for us were based on a 15.9% classification rate for special education. Last year, the governor and the administration made a unilateral decision, and this was based on pressure from a lot of school districts, to not use 15.9%, but to base the funding on the actual percentage of students getting special services in each school district. Princeton lost almost 10% or so of its special education funding because Princeton has a lower special education classification rate than the state average. So it hurt us to have fewer students classified receiving special education services. If you look at across the board in special education, you can see even this year, we're still down almost $300,000 from what we were receiving in special education categorical aid in 24-25. And if you look at rates of inflation, and I use CPI again from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but the DOE also publishes an inflation rate, and they use that to tell us how much our transportation contractors can increase their contracts and not have, and for us not to have to go out to bid. Last year it was 3.57%. This year it's 3.58. So the DOE is literally telling districts, if you contract out transportation, and we contract out probably about half of ours, that contractor can go up to 3.58% and you don't need to go out to bid. So if you look at just the last 2 years with our state aid, because it's been published in the last 3 days that Princeton is getting a nice bump in state aid, which is true, half true. If you look over the last 2 years, our total aid amount has increased by about 0.5%, while the rate of inflation is up 5%, and the rate of the DOE's inflation for transportation is up 7%. So we're not exactly swimming in it. So that covers state aid. So we've got most of our funding, right? Tax levy, state aid. Then we've got some other revenue, primarily Cranberry tuition. Then we have contributions mainly from the university. We have a $300,000 new pilot agreement from the generosity and the good partnership with our municipality. And that was formally negotiated at the end of last school year, but the payments, kick in now for this. This will be the first full budget where we receive those payments. We also have fund balance, and this came up a couple of months ago during our audit report. So aside from that 2% emergency fund, forget that because we can only access that with county approval and so forth. Beyond that, whatever we don't expend over the course of a budget year falls into fund balance if we don't put it in capital reserve or any other reserve account. And please, Andrew, jump in whenever I'm messing up here. But at the close of 2024, June of 2024, our fund balance stood at about 3.9 million. We saw in the audit from 2 months ago at the close of 2025, as a result of spending last school year, that fund balance had dropped to 2.7 million. So we have less fund balance that we are able to move forward into the 26-27 budget. We're hoping to build that number back up by being judicious with our expenses this year. And we don't want to continue to deplete fund balance until we get to zero, because that could be very bad for us. So we want to actually increase fund balance, be able to put money into capital reserve or other reserve accounts, and ensure that we have a little bit of a cushion every year that we put together a budget. So that's a concern, and it's one of the revenue points in the total overall $111 million budget that I showed in the beginning. So back to the the expense side of things. Our expenses as of right now, as we're talking, and we've already made some reductions here or there where we think we could without harming anyone. Our expenses are at about 116 million. This is just a broad overview. Most of our expenses, if you go in order, salary, then benefits, payments to charter schools after that, and then there's a host of other spending categories that our business office tracks. And drivers beyond the 3%, right? We've got salaries. Most of our collective bargaining agreements are at about 3%. Our out-of-district tuitions in this current budget are up about 5%. And that was true last year. Part of the reason why the fund balance, went from 3.9 to 2.7 is that we had some unanticipated expenses in out-of-district tuitions. So we're trying to keep pace with that. Maintenance, and then again, transportation is going up. We don't have an exact amount yet on transportation contracts, but that's just, I'm putting there as a placeholder since that's what the state gave us as the inflation rate. Yep. No, they can go up 10%. They can back charge us. They don't have to follow any rules. charter is not capped at 2%, I don't believe. This is the first district I'm working in with a charter component, so I'm not an expert in charter yet. I may have to ask Andrew on that one.
So charter is 90% of whatever our cost per student is. So if our cost per student goes up by more than 2%, then 90% of that would be charter school payment.
So some recent developments. These are some of the increases just in, that have come into our attention in the past few weeks. The municipality discovered that it has not been charging the school district for water management, and it needs to. So they've let us know. They've been terrific about being proactive and communicative with us, and has spoken and met with Andrew and me. But that will be about $100,000 increase for next year. The charter school increase, the Princeton charter school increase, and again, the state determines this along with our school aid notifications, went up $321,000, a little bit more than we were anticipating. We had other charter school increases that we're trying to understand because they were about $51,000 per student for 2 students that we were not anticipating. So the total increase in just recent expenses or expenditures is about $525,000. And going back to the pilot agreement, since this will be the first budget year where we have a full window into pilot revenue, that's about $300,000 in new revenue. And then we had the increase in state aid at just over 200. So if you just compare some of the new revenue against some of the new costs, we pretty much are flat. So any kind of present from the Department of Education is not going to go as far as we might like. A little hard to read this slide, but of course this will all be available on our website. Really, the important part is at the bottom right. Our revenues are in the middle there. Our revenues can max out, at least responsibly, we think, at $115 million and change. Our expenditures are at $116 million and change. And again, that reflects everything that we're currently doing now in the district without disturbing anything or reducing any program. So we're short right now as we speak about $743,000.
Correct. And that, as Mike showed before, that comes to about 4.9 million. And then the additional money you'll see, because what's in the budget is about 5.15, is made up from charging staff. Correct. That was all. So I broke it out a little bit differently in this budget than in the previous budgets. In previous budgets, that was all included in miscellaneous revenue. Now I'm breaking it out to show that to me, it should be classified since it's tuition. It should be charged to tuition. Again, same thing with rent. That was captured as miscellaneous revenue in the past. There is a financial line in our accounting software for things like rent. So I'm just breaking it out more to provide more detail.
I didn't know.
No, we are actually looking at a small decrease. Which line are you referring to?
Oh, no, I haven't everything included in
Everything in the 4.9 number is taken into account. And I do have a specific spreadsheet that if you're curious, we can discuss in operations.
But I didn't understand, point out that there is a 10%
That's correct.
and there's a discount.
That is correct.
Right, and they pay their transportation and special ed costs.
But you saw this.
Same. Yeah, so there are 2 boxes here. The bottom one is just what I mentioned before about fund balance, that we need to keep an eye on this and be sure that we're trying to not continue to deplete fund balance. The top box is what Andrew just was talking about. He's tried to break out miscellaneous revenue so it's not just one big pot of money. And the reason I have this highlighted is that a chunk of both of those columns has to do with interest that's being earned in the bank as a result of referendum project funding that's been deposited in the bank. And we are limited in how much interest we can recognize, but we are including $900,000 in interest in that $1.5 million. And the reason I just want to be super clear about this is that difference there in the bottom right-hand corner would be 1.6 million if not for recognizing the interest. And the interest is not going to be here very long. So it's important that we have open discussions about the fact that the gap is going to get bigger as we deplete the amount of money that's sitting in cash right now used to pay off. And we're paying architects and we're getting contractors appointed. So gradually over the next 3 years, that money is not going to be something that we can rely on. So we have to adopt a balanced budget tonight. We have to adopt a budget in line with the revenues. And then over the course of the next month, 6 weeks until April 28th, when we adopt our final budget, we need to finalize the $743,000 in either reduction or new revenue that we need to formalize so that we can move forward in a responsible fashion. So with that revenue line, that amount, the tax levy per $100,000 of assessed value. And again, this was something Andrew was trying to get his arms around today. So if we have to tighten it up, we will. But you can see the increase of about $60 roughly year over year per $100,000 of assessment. And the change in 24-25 to 25-26 is almost $300 or more than $300, but that's because it included the hit from all of the referendum projects. And some of that would be temporary and paid off after the term of the bond. So the next steps for us are we must adopt a preliminary budget this evening. We must submit it to the county. The county has to review it. Sometimes they might have questions or they might kick something back or ask for clarification. Other times they take a couple of weeks or a few weeks, and in early April, mid-April, we'll get the indication that it's ready, it's approved, and that we just need to notify them when we approve the final budget on April 28th. So, of course, the conversations have already begun with the operations committee of the board and other committees of the board, but we need to finalize and confirm whatever we are going to do to make up the $743,000 difference. So the first thing, of course, that we're looking to and that we're figuring out right now are reductions that we can realize that do not impact programming to students, at least to the greatest degree that we can avoid impacts to students. We're going to try to avoid them. So some of that could have to do with attrition or reorganization or transfer of staff to different positions if we have vacant positions or positions that we think we can operate more efficiently. Some of them might have to do with memberships or subscriptions or technology services that we think we could do without because we have other means to accomplish the work that we do. And then, of course, on the other side, if it's not all about reductions, it would need to be about identifying new sources of revenue. And one thing that we have discussed a little bit are activity and use fees. So I think the board will continue to have those discussions. But other districts, of course, have different districts have different methods of trying to generate revenue, either through facilities use fees and examining whether they've increased in recent years, activity fees for students involved in extracurricular types of activities, and so on and so forth. So we'll be working on that over the next number of weeks. We'll be talking with staff who could be impacted by some of the reductions. And then on 4/28, we will have a final budget that will have to be adopted. Looking beyond April 28th, though, assuming that there's no change in school funding or the changes don't benefit us, just like the unilateral change about special education, assuming that there's still a 2% tax levy cap, and there have been some, some draft legislation that relaxes the cap a little bit, especially if you're under local fair share, which we are by $100 million. Assuming that there are no huge changes, our expenses are going to continue to be greater than the revenue we can raise. And so then the question is really going to become for the board and the community at large, do we reduce the programming to get in line with the revenue we have, or do we increase the revenue to try to match the programming that people are accustomed to? And that is a longer, a much more involved conversation. It will take time. Right now I think I can say we'll be at a position where we can accomplish a budget on April 28th that does not have significant cuts to students. But it's likely that next year or the year after that will not be the case. And I would predict that over the next 2 weeks, because all districts must adopt their preliminary budgets by next Thursday, we're going to hear about many, many, many more districts that are already in the category of having to make some pretty significant reductions. I talked to one superintendent this morning with a 6.5% tax levy increase. Many districts are in the high single digits for tax levy increase simply because of the health benefits going up 25 or 30%. So that's a longer conversation. That's it for now. I'll shut up and go back to my chair, and we're happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
What chapter in the weeds? Chapter 4.
Chapter 44 sunsets in 2027.
We're going to start looking at a map, looking at health benefits and salaries and
That will be up to the board to traverse.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, thank you. That was just like Chatham, very clear, very accessible. Thank you.
And again, we appreciate all the time that you have making what spent on the budget.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to clarify. I believe, and we're going all the way back to the start with the waivers. I believe that, I just correct me if I'm wrong, the enrollment waiver is backward looking in average of like 5 years. So it's not immediate. Like as growth comes, it's kind of, we don't get the full benefit of that growth until until at least, I guess, 5 years in. Is that correct?
I don't know the look back on the enrollment, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Okay. It's all right. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
With all the building we have, I know they don't come online, but
I don't know the number of classrooms right off the top of my head. But that's part of the conversation about how we go about when the students come, right? The construction should be completed in roughly 3 years or so. And when the students arrive, how we are able to figure out how to staff the classrooms that we need for those students. That's one of those bigger conversations, I think.
Microphone. You have to hold it.
I just was asking about the pre-K program because it's kind of a difference if you look at our budget 5 years ago and what we have now. And we used to be around 100 million and now we're up to 120, 130. I mean, the numbers are significantly different, but there's a big piece of that. That's the pre-K that's coming straight from the state flowing through, right?
Andrew, do you have the numbers on the pre-K?
This year, pre-K went up to preschool aid went up to 3.4 million from 3.2.
So 3.4 million of the total budget relates to the pre-K.
But that must be spent. That can only be spent on pre-K.
Right. So that's a pretty big number there. Thank you. Thank you. And also when you mentioned the special education and that we somehow maybe have lower numbers than the state average, which was a kind of a surprise, I think, to some of us, it doesn't include 504 plans, does it?
Does not include 504 plans.
So that really means special education means students with IEPs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, or speech. That number didn't include speech either.
Oh, it doesn't include
The 15.9 did not. The speech was an additional 1.62, I think. And we were higher in speech We're probably higher in 504 plans, though the state doesn't
Yeah.
have that data anyplace. We're at just under 8% of total student body and 11% at the high school, I believe, have 504 plans. But we are below with IEP,
The
not
formal-
related to
the
speech.
Formal IEP classification. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to follow up on that. Why do you think we're low on IEPs?
Margarita?
Based on some review, can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Based on some review, um,
Can you tell us-
so can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So based on reviewing some of the programs that our students have been receiving, I would say the low numbers on the IEPs depend on how students are being evaluated and how they're assessed. Services that are offered that may be declined by parents, preferred 504 over IEPs due to labeling and what that may bring. And also the use of 504s, I would say, also needs to be reviewed because some of those services should be offered under an IEP versus a 504.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So labeling, I'm confused.
So I think some parents are a little resistant to having their student classified and having a special education label on their
Mhm.
student. So preferring a 504 to
Mhm.
not enter into that
Into the special
that-
education
yes.
realm.
into the special education realm.
And so are you saying that because of that stigma, we're receiving less state aid, theoretically?
I'm saying we're receiving less state aid because our special education rate falls below the state average.
And stigma, I guess, is part of that reason. So I'm just saying we need
It's
to
possible.
we need to do a better job educating parents, not just because of the financial implications.
Yes, no, I agree with that.
Oh, microphone. We have new microphones tonight.
Thank you. But do you see this as a multi-year structural, like, game it to the next 2-3 years? Do you think we're going to be, because a lot of this stuff we can't control right now, especially with the state, and we don't know, with legislation takes time. Do you see it 1 year, 3 years? I mean, I know you don't have to be definitive, but.
Like, like I said at the end of the presentation, I think this is a multi-year. We have to come up with a multi-year plan. Now it's dead. Green or red. We need to come up with a multi-year plan because if the tax levy is capped at 2%, it's not possible to keep up with the expenses that we have that are far beyond 2%. It's great. This is good. Yeah. I'm LeBron James. Yeah.
So
Take care of you.
Maybe put me mics on the docket for next year too.
Okay, any other questions? If my light is blinking orange and green,
Yeah, that's what mine was doing.
Is that bad? okay, well, I'll just talk louder.
I just want to thank again Dr. D'Souza because the story of the budget is not just about Princeton. It's a larger question, and we have constraints that are from the state level, and I think it's helpful to have the wider view, and so we have the context. And I know it's very dry and very kind of difficult for all of us to always think about, but I appreciate your laying it out very clearly and all the work that you're doing. So thank you.
No, I actually didn't think it was as boring as it was going to be, and I appreciate how. Yeah, I think Kim agrees, and I appreciate how you laid it out. Did anyone have any other questions? Anyone? No more questions. Okay, I think now. Hold on, I think we're going to go to the public. let's go to the public and see. Sorry? I was going to go to the public first to see if they had any comments on the budget. Then I was going to come back. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Come on up. Just come on up. Yeah, you have to go to the microphone. Just state your name and the street you live on, not the number. All right.
Um, Nicole Petzold, Hancock, Jefferson Road. You mentioned, Dr. L'Souza, that you were going to post your presentation online. I just want to say it was an excellent presentation, and I know far more about the budget now and budget making than I ever did before, but it would be great for other people in the district to be able to see it, even if they can't watch the video tonight.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Nicole. Just the
Okay,
presentation.
thank you. Anyone? Okay. I just want to say I don't like these wireless headphone, whatever this is. And if we could go back to the wired, because it's blinking. Anyway, I'm just commenting. Moving on now to the student board members report, and we have Annie here. Annie. Does Ash have spring fever? She couldn't join us tonight.
Yeah, she's not feeling well today.
Oh, okay. Literally, she has spring fever.
Yeah, I think mine's gonna die.
Okay. Okay, can we have a vote on who wants to keep these microphones? We can go back to the old ones.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Stay there
Okay.
until this comes on.
Okay. Okay. Okay, just to start with the AI usage kind of idea that we've been going off of, we've been finishing up the form that we are going to send out to the teachers. That just a couple questions that we have included in the form include the subject, department, and grade levels that they teach. What do they use AI for, and what is their specific policy for their students? Of course, it varies between each class and subject matter. What do your students use AI for? What steps do you take to make sure the AI policy is clear in the classroom for the students to understand? And what resources or support would help you better manage student AI usage in your classroom? So we've just kind of been finishing that up. And then an arts and culture update. This past weekend, Legally Blonde, the musical, was performed, and it was a great hit. I personally enjoyed it very much. I even got my mom, who does not like musicals, to enjoy it. So, no, but you're saying you enjoyed it. Then spring sports started last Monday, so that's kind of kicking off, and winter sports are ending. I know winter track goes a little over the spring, into spring sports, but and then in their preliminary competition, Studio Band got second place in Division 2. They received the Best Rhythm Section Award, and they had 3 soloist awards, 1 outstanding soloist, and 2 honorable mentions. And they also won the Best Sight Reading Award within the competition, and then also across the whole state. And then today, we just started the NJGPA testing as well. No, I have 2 classes today, and then 2 classes tomorrow, and 4 on Thursday. 12:30. We have a student council meeting tomorrow, so we're going to probably talk to them about that, and then should go out as soon as possible. Next meeting, most likely, yes.
AI is changing so rapidly, and informally to find out really what's going on, what's available, what they're using to try to stay on top of things.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a good method to just kind of make sure everyone's on the same page on AI usage, especially since it's changing so much, and just get a better understanding in the school environment.
These are very confusing because it was orange. I thought orange meant on. No, but green means on. And orange and green means no good.
We'll get there.
And it's St. Patrick's Day, but I want to assure everyone that we did not drink before the meeting. It's just seems like we have been. So moving on now to item 7, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And then we're going on to the board. That was 8, board reports. Mr. Harris is doing Roman numerals. I like it. Keeping us sharp. So the first one is long-term planning, and from the shuffling, I'm guessing Susan. Oh, Beth.
No.
Beth has it. Go ahead,
Alrighty.
Beth.
Okay, we met on March 10th. We discussed the progress on the bidding for the referendum projects and solar installation that we will be talking about tonight. We are working with Jenny Ludmer of Sustainable Princeton to develop a 5-year, well, we are not, I think the administration is working with her to develop a 5-year sustainability plan. Now that our initial one is pretty much complete with the solar, going out to bid on solar projects we've thought about for the last 5 years. So we're pleased that we've gotten through those, and we would like to think about what's next, prioritizing projects that can help reduce energy needs or save money, for example, LED lighting, and the importance of keeping sustainability and energy efficiency goals in mind as we undertake the renovation and new construction. We spoke about the post-budget work that will be done, gathering enrollment data on new developments, on the new developments in town, and monitoring growth. And our next meeting is April 21st at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Beth. Moving on to operations with Susan Canner.
Daphne will be very happy. This will be the shortest operations report ever. So we met both on March 12th and March 16th. Much of our meeting was discussing the budget, and you guys heard a lot of what we had been discussing. I wanted to highlight that there's 3 grants we're accepting today. Another additional grant from the Riverside PTO, who's adding $6,100 to grants they've already given us for the internal courtyard, and 2 grants for PHS football. As long as I have the microphone, I would like to ask if we can remove from the consent agenda item 10E2, which is the awarding of the middle school referendum contract, as there has been a bid protest, and we can discuss it at future times. But for today, I'd like to ask that it be removed.
So bid protest, what does that mean?
The second lowest bidder filed with the courts a motion to have the lowest bidder thrown out. So the judge has issued a stay preventing us from accepting any awards until that gets decided, and the court date is April 6th.
Okay, great. So we're not allowed to take action.
Correct.
Okay, so yes, we'll make that change.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, that
Wow.
is it. Yes. I think we had a long.
Mr. McDonald, I just want to show you how it can be done.
Well, I deferred my time. I gave my time to Dr. L'Souza.
All right, moving on now to personnel. I'm guessing Mara, yes.
Personal committee met Tuesday, March 10th. As you saw from Dr. Sousa's presentation, personal expenses comprise over 70% of the budget. And our overarching goal is to always maintain the highest standard for instruction for our children and people of our teachers. So each year, the district carefully considers if retiring or departing personality to be replaced, positions to be combined, and if a fully utilizing all of our personnel. And while multiple evaluations and observations are held throughout the year, this is the time of year when final personnel evaluations are made and reviewed in preparation for the May board meeting, when all renewals are announced. In personnel, we continue discussions on streamlining and maximizing the organization's free staff attrition, which is designated for retirements and non-renewal, and while always ensuring that we're good stewards of the community. We applaud the administration's hard work and effort at doing the each role position within our district to find main savings to stay in talent. And our next meeting will be Tuesday, April
28th. Oh, the board meeting is the 28th. Personnel is the 20th. I'm so confused. Anyway, I apologize. Next up is policy with Beth.
Policy met on March 3rd and March 13th. We were busy this month. We had a robust discussion on screen time, device usage, and access to external sites, content monitoring options, and the bell-to-bell phone ban. We kind of talked about the idea that the cell phone legislation that's come down from the state is an opportunity for us to reset in policy and practice and update the community education about better supporting student learning and mental health and thinking about the interface with technology. And we would like to be implementing a comprehensive approach. So we're going to be doing a lot of talking about that in the months ahead. The March 13th meeting, we met with the foreign language and fine arts supervisors and the PHS principal to gain a better understanding of the current international trip practices as we look to update our field trip policies and procedures as a follow-on from the recent audit findings. Our next meeting is May 5th, unless we decide we need to have a meeting in April.
Thank you. Last but not least, Eleanor with student achievement.
Student achievement met yesterday at 1 o'clock to discuss the budget and also a field trip that is on the agenda for tonight. But our main meeting of this month will take place after this meeting on March 26th at 1 o'clock on Zoom.
All right, thank you, Eleanor. And equity did not meet. No, do we know when the next meeting is? We've not set that. Okay. Moving on to the action items, but I think they're not action items; they're just items, right? So, yeah, got it. Yep. So we have policies for first and second reading, and then we have personnel. Number one is retirements. We have quite a few teachers retiring. I know Mara has something that she would like to say.
Yes, this is a very, very tough one, very sad one. It's the end of the year at JK, and I really wanted to recognize the retirements. We have Melanie Miller, Jerry Castillo, and Donna Eisenhower. Those three teachers have combined 93 years in the district, and they've made an indelible difference in the lives of their students, families, and colleagues. And being elementary school teachers is no small job. It requires a lot of patience, creativity, and energy. And you three have all been the best of the best, handling everything that's thrown at you and much more with grace, humor, and smile. You've not only been a teacher, you've been a mentor, cheerleader, storyteller, sometimes even a detective figuring out the last crayon or last sort of backpack to making noises. But most importantly, you've been someone who believed in every single student who walked in the classroom. Along with teaching math, reading, and writing, you taught kids to be confident, curious, and kind. You created classrooms where kids felt safe to ask questions, make mistakes, and try again. Your kids will never forget how you make them feel, encouraged, supported, and capable of doing great things. And now, after years of early mornings, busy school days, and countless young life touch, it's finally time for a well-deserved retirement. Donna, thank you for your 39 years, your math enthusiasm, and your fun points competition, which for the life of me, I think it was Pirate Games, and I just couldn't remember. You were a phenomenal teacher for Bella and many others, and you will be missed. Jerry, thank you for your 28 years. You were always upbeat and always looked out for the whole of the child. You connected so well with each and every child in your class, but I was especially appreciative that you were a fellow boy mom who understood that sometimes you just needed to open the door and let them run. Thank you for shepherding all three of my kids, through that incredibly transformative year that second grade is. And Melanie, thank you for your 26 years. Your background in home ec shine through in the classroom, making it feel like a home away from home with special crafts. We hope this next chapter is filled with relaxation, laughter, and new adventures. Thank you for your patience, passion, and lasting impact you've made on the school community, and your influence will live on in every student whose life you touch. Congrats on wonderful careers, and you guys will be missed.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we're moving on now to resignations. 3 appointments, 4 transfer reassignment, 5 personnel items. Let me see here. We have A, salary adjustments, B, vacation buyback, C, tuition reimbursement, D, retirement payout, and lots of in the weeds data that's up on the screen behind me. Where am I right now? Oh, then we have 9, which is student services, 10 athletics, 11 6 period compensation, 12 grievance resolution. Then we go to curriculum and instruction. 1 is student day field trips. 2 is student overnight trips. Then we're going to student services, contract approval. Um, Contract approval, special education agreement, and moving on now to E1, adoption of the tentative budget. Yep. Okay. Do we have to vote on the budget separately or no? Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, I know you know, but I just wanted to clarify that. E3, award of, hold on a second. I'm going to do it at the end. Okay. Award of contract. E4, construction payments. E5 is an action item. Can I get a motion? Ari, second. Beth?
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Maura Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard, Ari Mizell,
Yes.
Christopher Santarpio,
Yes.
Erica Snyder,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Okay, moving on, we have 6. Thank you. 6 fire and evacuation drills. 7 is funds transfer. 8 is joint transportation agreement. 9 is joint transportation agreement. 10 is registration travel agenda. 11 is the district calendar that Dr. Lususa mentioned. Are we good?
Yeah.
Do we need to make any changes? No? Okay. Yeah, let's make a change.
Just following up on my section of the agenda,
Which is,
with the final bullet shows the 26-27 preliminary budget. Sorry, second to last bullet, 26-27 calendar modification.
yes.
Didn't make it into the E
Oh,
under business. We
yeah.
should just note that 26-27, the staff will start one day earlier than it is listed.
So you're saying you, under 11, 25, 26,
There
we-
should be another
there should
bullet
be
for
another bullet.
26-27.
okay.
And it doesn't affect any students.
It
It's
doesn't
just
affect
that the
students.
staff only days will be moved up one day.
So can you just, so what day is staff going to start?
Instead of going Wednesday through Friday before students start, they're going to go Tuesday through Thursday.
Okay.
And
That's it.
PREA surveyed their staff and they preferred that.
That's great. I
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So that's just a housekeeping and it does not affect
Housekeeping.
students or families.
Yes.
But the staff is starting on August 25th, which is something. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, PREA, too. Do we need a motion?
Do we need to reapprove next year's calendar?
Yeah.
Should probably
Yes.
do it next meeting then, so that way
Okay.
we have the calendar on the agenda.
Okay, we'll do that. But just so everyone knows, teachers have to report August 25th. All right, if this gets approved. And then we have 12, which is grant donation. The board accepts the grants and donations. Riverside PTO for courtyard project in the amount of $6,100. Chris Slager for PHS football in the amount of $3,000. Nick DiLorenzo for PHS football in the amount of $2,000. We're very, very grateful for the generosity of all 3 donors. Moving on now to our second public comment. Go ahead. Come on up, Nicole.
I was going to save this for a different night, but since it was on the agenda, I'll say it now. Do I have to say my name and stuff again?
Nicole Pezzold, and you live what street?
Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Road. Yes. Thanks. I'd like to recognize Senora Sheila Aguilar for her immense contributions to Community Park School over the past 27 years. Senora Aguilar grew up in the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood and gave back to our community for decades as a kindergarten teacher there. She taught both of my children and was a bright part of their day, always warm, kind, welcoming. Her classroom was a happy place that you wanted to go to, even if you didn't speak the language, which was Spanish for my kids, because Senora Aguilar was also a pioneer teacher within the DLI program as one of the first to take on that challenge of being a Spanish partner teacher. And she did it wonderfully. I still remember the songs and tostadas from my daughter's kindergarten celebration. Anyway, each cohort was different. Some were challenging than others, regardless of the class size, but she always handled it with grace. And she's a wonderful artist. Her storybook mural in the kindergarten wing will live on for future CP students. And so it's with deep gratitude that I wish Senora Aguilar farewell and best of luck in her retirement. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on now to the consent vote. Can I get a motion for the consent vote? Chris, second, Ari. I know, I thought I was going to do that, and then I was going to remove it. I have my phone literally right here. Does anyone have anything to say? No. Yes, you do. No, you do. Someone has something to say. Can I please remember? No, now, before the consent agenda vote.
A motion to remove 10E2 from the consent agenda. I would like to make a motion to do that and to have a vote on it at the next available meeting that we have.
Due to the bid protest.
Due to the bid protest.
And you second it? And do we need a vote or no?
We can vote on it now.
All right. All in favor of removing action item 10E2 from the consent agenda due to a bid protest? Anyone not in favor? Action item 10E2 is now removed from the consent agenda. All right, now. I'm just following the directions. The consent vote occurs.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
No, I made a motion. I started. So I introduced the consent agenda, then we removed something, and now we're going to vote.
Okay.
Was that not correct?
We did great.
You know, there are.
Beth Bayard. Adam Bierman. Mara Franceschi.
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard. Catherine Lara. Ari myself.
Yes.
Christopher Santarpio.
Yes.
Erica Snyder.
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Daphne Kent.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes. Thank you. So our next meeting is April 28th. We want to wish everyone a happy and restful spring break. And another twist for the board tonight. Can I get a motion to go into closed session? Mara, second Susan. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Too bad. All right. And now, we're going to adjourn from closed session, so we're all set.
Are we taking any action at the end of closed?
It's just a discussion. Okay.
Okay.
We don't know, but
Then we
if
can
we
adjourn
take
from that.
action, we'll let you know. We don't anticipate any action.
Thank you.
All right, so we're good. All right, good night, everyone. Thank you.